Welcome to the Selling from the Heart podcast on the Salescast Network. You've joined a global movement of sales professionals who are dedicated to being authentic and building trust. We call it Selling from the Heart. Together, we are on a mission to bring sincerity and substance to the sales profession we all love. Get ready to be inspired and equipped as we join our hosts, Larry Levine and Daryl Amy.
Are you ready to take your career to the next level?
One of the best ways we found to do that is to surround yourself with like-hearted sales professionals.
And we've heard that saying, you're the sum of the people that you hang out with.
Well, if you want to hang out with some sales professionals that also want to take their career to the next level and believe in selling from the heart, we invite you to join us in the Selling from the Heart Insiders Group.
This is a weekly gathering of like-hearted, like-minded sales professionals and sales leaders. We truly build community each and every week.
One of our favorite things is our up close and personal with thought leaders, former podcast guests, and people that challenge us to grow in sales. We would like you to join us for our next up close and personal. Just go to sellingfromtheheart.net/free-pass. That's sellingfromtheheart.net/free-pass. And we look forward to seeing you in the Selling from the Heart Insiders Group. Hello, and welcome back to the Selling from the Heart podcast. Your co-host, Daryl Amy, here today with Larry Levine. What's going on, Larry?
Yeah, we got so much going on. I got the Halloween stuff out. I got the trick-or-treaters waiting to come over. It's fall. Fall's in the air. We're going to have a great time today.
Yeah. Now, we pre-record these shows, but it's October, and you know what that means? Baseball time, postseason. I know you're having a blast. I know we're in the fourth quarter. So many great things are going on. We've got a phenomenal guest today, Casey Cavell. We can't wait to introduce you to our friend Casey. This is going to be a powerful show. What I love about the Selling from the Heart community and this group of sales professionals and sales leaders literally all over the world, Larry, is this is a group of people that encourages each other. And I love getting to interact with our friends. We love hearing from listeners to the podcast. And it's just so cool, the relationships that are forming around Selling from the Heart.
Yeah. And I just want to give a special shout out to Joe Barrow. And even though, I mean, I'm a sports guy, I'm a West Coast sports guy. He's an East Coast sports guy, but Joe Barrow's a great sales leader. And what I really love about Joe is when he listens to these podcasts, it's either on a walk or with a pad of paper and a pen in his hand, and he takes notes. Joe, I appreciate you. I know Daryl does. Continue doing great work.
Mad respect. Yeah, absolutely. He always has a notepad of things. And this is what's great about the Selling from the Heart podcast is, as we like to say, there's always writer downers. And Joe always writes it down and puts it to work. Hey, if you want to come join us and Joe in the Insiders Group, this is a group that we talk about all the time of like-hearted sales professionals. We get together every Friday. We communicate throughout the week in a private social network. If you want to be a part of that and come check it out, just go to sellingfromtheheart.net/free-pass. That's sellingfromtheheart.net/free-pass. We'll put the link in the show notes. And you can come hang out in this community and see what's going on. And I guarantee you're absolutely going to love it. Speaking of things you're going to love our friend Casey Cavell in this conversation that is coming up. Look, if you're in the trenches every day, and I know you are, struggling to balance taking care of your customers and growing your sales, Casey is a game changer. He's not just a business guru. Look, he's transformed a $9,000 investment into a jaw-dropping $40 million portfolio. He's also the go-to expert for entrepreneurs and salespeople that are wanting to step back from the relentless day-to-day. And guess what? His insights aren't just for business owners. Salespeople and sales leaders can also benefit immensely. By implementing Casey's strategies, we can become more productive, laser-focused, and crush our sales targets. Well, let's dive in and discover how Casey can help us revolutionize our approach. Casey, welcome to the Selling from the Heart podcast. It's great to have you here.
Well, what's going on, gentlemen? Good to be here.
It's great to see you. Double C, double L, Daryl. We got to do something with the last name.
That's right. Hey, this is going to be powerful, especially for all of our friends who are trying to figure out how to navigate all of this. And as we get started, though, you know the question that every guest on the Selling from the Heart podcast answers, and that is, Casey, what does it mean to you to sell from the heart?
Love what you sell and know why you sell it.
Oh, short, sweet, to the point. And that's what I just love about it. And I'm glad you brought up the love word, is love what you sell and know why you do it. Is how many people just, especially in sales, they just get into sales, right? It's that next job, or it's that next, it is that next job, but they're there, and then they're there for a moment, and then they go somewhere else. And it's just that constant quest. You got to love what you do. And I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I try in all things like simplify life, simplify business, because you guys have heard about Pareto's principle, right? 20-80 approach, where it's like 20% of your time produces 80% of your results. And I've just been like a student of that, is how do I really focus my time and energy on the things that really matter and block my days and put things on my calendar that really make an impact. So you asked me that question. I'm sure there's a bunch of different directions I could have went, but I tried to simplify it, as easy as possible.
Which brings us to the topic of today's conversation. And I know we've known each other for many years now, and I'm mad respect for the work that you do with entrepreneurs. And if you think about the sales profession, salespeople are entrepreneurs as well, right? We've taken a risk. We've gone out. We're building our customer base or territory and all of that. And much like entrepreneurs, salespeople at times can be running around with their hair on fire, getting to the end of the day. And I know we've all experienced this, getting to the end of the day and going, I worked so hard today. Absolutely no idea what I did, but I know I'm exhausted. What do you say to salespeople who are identifying with that and going, Casey, I feel like I'm running a million miles an hour, and I don't really always feel like I'm getting anywhere?
Yeah, I think that's true. And I would just say do less better. Like, don't do 20 calls, do 15, but do the follow-up the right way. Or do 15 calls, but make sure they're really good calls, rather than just, all right, I got another appointment. Okay, you're already thinking about the next one when you're in the current one, and you're not probably finishing the job with the current one. And I think just a lot of people, they're all activity-based, but at the end of the day, you want to be results-based. It's not how many calls you have, it's how much business you close. So I think it's really trying to figure out, like, all right, who's my ideal prospect? And only talk to those people. And what is the actual process I should be following? And know what is the right process and make sure you follow it. And then surround yourself with other people that can encourage you, challenge you, inspire you, teach you, all of that kind of stuff. Because I do think that a lot of salespeople, they're running from thing to thing, from call to call, but they're not doing like 100% of the things they know they need to do to be successful. So I think that's really it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought this up, Casey, because, as I was listening to the very beginning of what you were saying, is I had flashbacks of the industry I came out of, and we were held to certain metrics, right? Certain number of calls per day, certain amount of appointments per day, certain amount of customer visits per day. And finally, I threw my hands up and said, this is just maddening, right? I'm all about quality over quantity. So what I like about what you said is there's not as much emphasis placed on the quality of the conversations that you have. And if you can pay attention to that, it'll shorten the number of calls that you start to make, because each call potentially has quality behind it if your mindset's reframed that way. Do you buy into what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I think that's the right way to go about it, is Pareto's principle, 20%. 80%. And it's trying to figure out the 20% of the activities that you do that produce 80% of results. 20% of the prospects that you talk to are going to produce 80% of your return. So it's trying to simplify it and hone in and spend your time on what really matters.
Hey, Daryl, I bet you one thing. If Casey took his why, he's a simplify guy. I could almost guarantee his why is simplify.
Well, I say simplify to multiply all the time. And I think this is one of the great things for sales professionals listening in right now, to be able to look at what you're doing and go, okay, who are the 20% of prospects, and what are the 20% of activities, and what are the things that I need to do that are actually going to move the ball down the field, to use sports analogy? Where are we going to get things done? And stop doing the rat race 80% of things. And this is, this reminds me, we're all big Stephen Covey fans here. This reminds me of the story about the big rocks and making sure those big rocks go in first. And in sales, to my friends who are running around, with their hair on fire, the question is, have you put the big rocks in, and do you understand? I'm curious, continue this conversation. When you work with entrepreneurs who are struggling with all of this, what other advice would you give in the context of sales to getting things in line?
Yeah, just be really clear with who your target market is. Who are you actually trying to go after? And figure out those clients that have been your best ones, and make sure you're going after more of those. I help businesses figure out who their ideal customer is. And it's all about, okay, demographically speaking, who are they? Psychographically speaking, like, what do they want? What do they need? What do they desire? What keeps them up at night? And then geographically, where are they? So I think any person that's in sales, they need to really understand, who are they going after? And then what is it that you're saying that makes your thing unique and different than everybody else? Because everybody's getting pitched something almost all the time. You got to figure out what sets you apart, why you, and have a strong selling proposition there. And maybe have a strong guarantee, like figure out what the objections are that everybody's going to have, and have those answers already ready. And make sure you're only calling people on your list that, like, if I can get with them, I'm in really good shape. So don't make 100 calls, but make 20 calls. But those 20 calls you make, like, be prepared with the background information that you need to have on the person you're about to talk to. Know who they are and what they want, what they need. So don't just call and try to figure it out on the fly. Like, do some research ahead of time so you're more well prepared. Really make sure you understand why and the problem that you're solving and what's going to make you different than everybody else in the marketplace.
You know what's interesting? I'm a big proponent of slow down to actually speed things up, and this is the slow down part of this. But just from your experience, Casey, where do people struggle with this? Is because salespeople are out there, right? And it's, you always ask a salesperson, what'd you do during the day? I was just out getting things done, but they can't identify what they really got done. Where do you see the struggle with all of this taking place? Is you're a Simplify guy. Walk us through, just from your experience, where's the disconnect, or where's the struggle with all of this in getting somebody just to go, okay, I get what you're cooking, but I'm struggling to identify to it.
Yeah. So I'm a baseball guy, played former college baseball player, coach, all of that. And if you look at baseball, right, look at what happens before the game and after the game, right? If you, in college, you might play, 4 to 7 days. What happens the other 3 days? What happens the 2 hours before the game? What happens the 2 hours after the game, right? You almost want to prepare and then reflect. So before the game, before the call in this situation, okay, am I prepared for this call? What objections am I going to hear? Do I have all my stuff ready? Do I have a scouting report on who I'm talking to? And then after the call, or after the day, or at the end of the day, what worked today? What didn't work? What did I learn? What can I improve next time? And I think a lot of people, they just run from day to day to day, and they don't really stop and think, how did today go? What was my big win? What was my big learning lesson? Where did I mess up? And what do I need to do to fix it moving forward? And I think if you're able to do that, slow down, like you said, Larry, and really think what's working, and then do more of that, and what's not working and do less of that, you'll be in really good shape.
Such a powerful concept. And I love the analogy of sports. And as we continue into this conversation, we're going to take a brief break and hear from one of our sponsors, as well as our good friend, Zach Matthews, about what it means to sell from the heart. And when we come back, we're going to continue to unpack some of the things that salespeople can learn from entrepreneurs that are very successful. So let's take a brief break. We'll hear from Zach Matthews, back with Casey Cavell in just a moment.
I'm thrilled to introduce to you a revolutionary tool that will change the way you understand yourself and others. Our partners at the Y Institute have created the Y.OS Discovery Platform, a powerful tool that in just 10 minutes can help you uncover your core motivations, how you bring them to life, and what others can expect from you. This is more than just a self-awareness tool. It's a game changer for coaches and those who want to help their clients reach their full potential. If you're a coach or a sales leader, go to yinstitute.com and look for the Y certification. We'll put the link in the show notes. When you reach out to the Y Institute, let them know you heard about it on Selling from the Heart, and you'll be on your way to helping your people discover what drives them. Don't just take our word for it. Go to whyinstitute.com and see the powerful impact the Why.os discovery can have on your life.
First thing that comes to mind, especially with my experience, is just assessing a person's pain points and really getting down to the nitty gritty of, how can you solve that pain point for them? I'll give you an example based on, just my background. I was in ticket sales for several years, and, with the position title, ticket sales representative, ticket sales account executive, there's that can be misconstrued. The misconception there is, I sell tickets, right? But, with the misconception there is that, you're just selling like a piece of paper that gets someone into a professional sports game, right? Mm-hmm. But when you really dial it back and you really think about it from a 300-foot view, you sell way more than just a piece of paper. You're selling the experience, you're selling the number of seats, the number of people that they can bring with them to that game. You're selling the proximity to the field. You're selling the benefits that come with being a season pass member. You're really getting down to like their why of why they even want to, attend a professional sports game.
I love it.
Casey, I know you like that one.
That's great. Hey, thank you, Zach. And by the way, if you want to be featured on an upcoming episode of Selling from the Heart, just text the word video to 21,000. That's video to 21,000. You'll get simple instructions about how you can submit a video. We'd love to feature your answer to what it does it mean to you to sell from the heart on an upcoming podcast. This is a fascinating conversation with entrepreneurial coach Casey Cavell. And Casey, as you are working with some high performance entrepreneurs, and you've been down some really interesting roads yourself in your career, what are some things that you see entrepreneurs and business owners doing really well that salespeople can take note of and adopt into their patterns for success?
I think just have a plan. I don't know how many great business owners don't really have a plan that's written down, documented, tracked, and revisited, and then challenged. I think a lot of business owners and a lot of salespeople, they might have some of it, but they don't really like revise it. They don't really challenge each other. They don't really have somebody to challenge them. And I think the great ones have coaches. The great ones have other people that are like doing life with them. I just got somebody in my my weekly workout class. It used to be me and my trainer one-on-one. And I realized that if I had one other person there with me doing the circuit, I would work harder. Why? It's because they would challenge me. Right. So I think like whether you're a salesperson or you're an entrepreneur, you need somebody else to do it with, that they listen to your calls and they might be able to challenge you, or you listen to their calls and you might be able to challenge them, and you might have some competitions and things like that. Or you might be able to, challenge each other and ask challenging questions to figure out, is there a better way? And I just think asking that question of each other, is there a better way? Is this the best way? Am I doing everything I should be doing to get that end thing that I really want? And always being willing to, challenge the process, I think is key.
And you know what I like is just imagine for a second. I'm sitting here listening to what you're saying, Casey, and first thing that popped into my head is a peer group. Imagine just if salespeople, right, and we can even put sales leaders in there as well. You developed a small little peer group. And that peer group, sometimes it may not be people on your own team. It could be salespeople in maybe non-competing industries or something like that. And y'all get together, once a month or a couple times a month, and you just share experiences and you coach each other up, because quite often, sometimes it may not be occurring in there. So I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm like going, man, if I was a forward-thinking salesperson today, I'd be developing my own peer group.
Yeah. And I'm helping a client right now. They're a baseball mentorship company. So they're mentoring high school and college players. And that's what they have. They have groups of 10, and then they have a once a month Zoom call with a group of 5 players. So there's a team of 10, but there's 2 kind of teams inside of the team. And they have a once a month Zoom call, and that's what they have. They're talking about, well, my batting average this month was X, Y, and Z, but what's the real issue? Right. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurs and salespeople, it's like, what's the real issue behind my sales performance? Not where it needs to be? What's the real issue of me not making the calls I need to make or getting the results I need to make? So I think the peer group is really good, Larry, but it's in that it's figuring out the real issues. It's having somebody that's willing to ask the tough questions and go there with you, because I think the end result, if it's not what you want it to be, you need somebody to figure out what is the real issue behind the curtain, and somebody that's willing to, ask tough questions and dig a little bit. I was just working with a client today, and their issue was lack of follow through. Well, that's not the real issue, right? The real issue was 5 whys deeper. And I think if you're trying to figure out what's not working in your life or not working in your business, like, well, why is that not working? Okay, well, why is that not working? And I think it does take somebody in your life to be willing to go there and ask the tough questions to figure out the real reason. And ultimately, it's typically people or process. So if you're not performing where you want to perform as a salesperson, either you're the problem or the process is the problem. And it could be a bad process, meaning you don't have the right sales scripts or process or going after the wrong target market. Or you have a great process, you're just not following it. Or you have some sort of mental block that's holding you back, right? There's something going on in your brain that's preventing you from getting excited to pick up the phone or getting excited to close the deal. So I think that is some of the things a good peer group can kind of help people with.
Is super idea. And I've noticed successful entrepreneurs and business owners do that for each other. And so why wouldn't you do that in sales? Super, super powerful. Casey, here we are. It's the middle of the fourth quarter. A lot of entrepreneurs and business owners are getting business plans together for the next year. And this is something that very smart business people do. They have a plan. And you mentioned earlier that salespeople should have a plan too. And I'm willing to bet there's quite a few salespeople listening in going, well, if I'm honest, Casey, I don't really have a documented written plan. So would you coach us for a moment, coach that salesperson that's going, you know what, this is a great time to be thinking about a plan. What would you recommend a salesperson do and be thinking about as they're putting a plan together for 2024?
Yeah, I would ask them, I would say, imagine that you get to take a vacation the entire year. You get the year off, but you have to hire somebody else to do your job for that next year.
Ooh.
What would you want them to accomplish? What goals would you want them to have? How would you want them to act and behave and do and perform, and challenges that you'd want them to solve? And then on top of that, I would ask you to put together a weekly scorecard or box score of the key measurables that you want them to hit each month or each week, right? You should have some weekly numbers, KPIs, key performance indicators, and monthly. So I think if you're able to put yourself out of the situation, pretend you're hiring somebody else to do your job, you're actually paying them to do that job, and then write down the job description, I think that's really good. I mean, answer the questions. What does success look like? What are the performance metrics that they need to hit to be happy? What's going to happen if you're able to hit those metrics? Like, why? Like, what is the success that you're going to have? And then what happens if you fail? And I think if you can answer those 4 questions for somebody else doing that job, and then ask yourself, do I actually want to do it? Can I do it? You'll be in really good shape.
Oh my gosh. Hey, Casey, where were you about 15, 20 years ago, dude? I mean, that's golden stuff right there, because I tell you, I'm sitting there going, what would I have said? And yeah, I mean, you had me speechless, because if you would have put me on the spot, Casey, if you would have asked me this back in my days, I couldn't have, because I just went through the day and I knew what I was doing, but it was sometimes I'll throw my hands up. It wasn't documented.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's a good mirror moment right there.
Yeah, and I probably shouldn't answer what I was doing 15 years ago, so we'll have to take that off.
Well, this is an extremely powerful conversation, and one of the things I want to wrap up with is just your insight on the power of process. And I think this concept of writing the job description for the person that's going to replace the current you while you're on vacation. And you might actually go on vacation and hire somebody to do that. Then you'd be then you'd be an entrepreneur. Not exactly, but this is thinking like an entrepreneur, right? What is the job to be done, and what would it take for you to be successful great insight. Now, I know a huge part of what you believe in is the power of process, or for my fellow Canadian friends, the power of process. Casey, when you think about process in light of selling and sales success, and also in light of the sales leaders that are listening in, what advice would you give in terms of the role of process in sales success?
I think just have a game plan. Understand where you need to start and where you need to end up. And then in between, how you get there. I think a lot of that can be free flowing, but you got to get the opening of any relationship or any conversation right. And you got to get the close right. And you're probably not going to get to the middle part unless you can build a relationship. And I think a lot of people won't do business with you until they learn to trust you. Now, people sometimes need trust built on credibility, sometimes competency, sometimes character, or sometimes chemistry. So those are the 4 ways that people build trust. So you got to figure out when you talk to somebody, is this person more character or more credibility? Because I know that when I talk to somebody and it's a business owner, like they're going to look at my credibility and be like, okay, you get it. You've been there, you've done that. I'm going to hire you based on that. But some might look at my character. And if I know they're looking at my character before they can do business, I'm going to talk and we're going to build a real relationship before we can do business. Some people might just want credibility. So when you're talking to somebody, I first start with relationship before opportunity. Some people need that character and that chemistry, and they need to get to know you and like you and trust you. Some just want to say, hey, can you actually help me solve my problem? So first start with trust and then end with the solution, whatever that looks like. And maybe there's some lines that you can say at the end or some processes or some next steps. So I think it looks a little bit different for anybody, but don't sell and ask for it until you build that relationship built on trust. And if you can figure out a way to get them to say yes without you asking, right, I think you're in really good shape.
Hey, Casey, I just a quick question for you, and like where you're taking the direction of this is throw us the signs, right, for the salesperson that's out there and they're engaging in that conversation. How does that, because this all is happening rapid, fast in people's heads, is how does that salesperson know? Is this a credibility thing, a character thing, a competence thing? What are some of the signs? Just throw some out there that somebody can go, you know what? And because it's real fast stuff, but they got to be picking up on the signs. And I know you're a sports guy. So what would be some of those signs in the first couple minutes that will help determine, is it credibility, character, competence?
What do you think yours is, Larry? Let me ask that first, because I'm writing something down like right now. I just wrote one of those 4 down. What's yours?
For me, it'd be credibility.
Okay, great. And then what's yours, Daryl?
Competence.
Great. So you guys are like to the point, like, hey, do you know what you're doing? Have you been there and done that? Yeah. Now, how do I figure that out on a very quick call? I'm just listening and learning and trying to figure it out. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there is a way.
I was just curious. That's why I just asked. So
yeah, I think you definitely know the chemistry, right? Yeah. Because you can just kind of hear it in their voice and you can see it on their face. Do they just want to sit here and chit chat, or are they more like, hey, let's get down to business? And you can kind of tell if they're get down to business based on their tone and their tact and how they answer it. And if they just want to get down to business, hey, let's get down to business. But if it's more like they got a bubbly personality and they ask you a question about who you are, ask a question back about who they are. And I think that's it. And I like people that are more, chemistry and character, because we can just talk more about that. And that's almost as enjoyable about getting down to business. So I think you just have to learn for the clues. I think we talked, Larry, about baseball a lot, our very first conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I actually wrote down chemistry for you because I think in our first conversation, it felt like it was more like just get to know me and talk. And I don't think we were actually selling each other anything. I don't think we even have anything to sell each other. Right. So we were more just literally connecting. Right. But I think that's key. It's probably a little bit of all of those for everybody, but one might tip the scale and you got to figure it out.
Yeah, no, and thank you for sharing, because I just wanted to throw it out because I know that there are people that are watching or listening and going to go, okay, well, what are some of the signs? But I'd agree. I think all of these they all play a part in that conversation, and it's all happening lightning fast. You just got to pick up on the clues.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if Casey and I talk, we're going to talk about ideas. So that's right. And there's so many different things. Casey's a really, really powerful conversation. I appreciate you investing in the Selling from the Heart community. I'm curious. I know many people are asking, how can I get more Casey Cavell in my life?
Sure. Well, check it out, caseycavell.com. That's my website. I do a Friday focus newsletter every Friday. And I don't know why, Daryl, as you asked that, I'm like, I don't know how much more Casey there's going to be to go around. My wife's pregnant with twins.
Oh, congratulations.
Whoa. So we're going to have 4 kids under 2.5. So Casey might need to go on a little bit of a break. So I got to be very careful with who I work with. But what I have done is I've purposed all my content out months and months in advance. So caseycavell.com, Friday Focus newsletter. It'll help you focus, whether you're an entrepreneur or a salesperson. I give you little tactics to help you win in life. And then I have a podcast too. It's called The Dugout CEO. It's a little bit of a baseball theme, but we talk more about life, leadership, business, how to win, whether it's on the field or in the boardroom or it's at home as a dad or a husband or whatever. So caseycavell.com and the Dugout CEO podcast. And there's a little bit of me to go around. So if you're an entrepreneur looking to grow your company, I'm here, and check it out on caseycavell.com.
Thank you for investing in us, Casey. This has been amazing. We really, really appreciate you.
Thank you.
You bet. Thanks, guys.
Love this mindset, Larry, and so many nuggets to take away here. And I think the question, one of the burning questions here is, do you have a written plan for yourself? If you want to be compensated well, you want to be compensated like an entrepreneur, and you can be in sales. The question is, are you acting like one? And one of these things is do you have a documented written plan going into this next year? It's a great time of year to get this done.
And it's not just a well-written, documented plan that you do once because, right, somebody may hold you accountable to it. And I think you know where I'm going with this. It's a well-documented written plan that you actually review.
That's right.
On a monthly basis.
With KPIs and scorecard and all of those great analogies and lessons from the world of athletics. And yeah, this is super powerful. And I love the perspective that Casey brought to us here today. And this is our goal in the Selling from the Heart podcast, is to bring you fresh perspective that is going to help you succeed. And one of the best ways to get some perspective is with your peers. And so you might meet the people that you could form your small peer group inside the Selling from the Heart Insiders group. And that's why we want to invite you to a future up close and personal. Go to sellingfromtheheart.net/free-pass. Click it in the show notes and join us on a Friday. Meet some like-hearted professionals. And who knows, maybe you'll be able to form your small peer group, as Casey was talking about, out of relationships you build in the Insiders group. We've seen it happen already. So come join us, sellingfromtheheart.net/free-pass.
Yeah. And just before we wrap up, and I would just encourage everyone out there is, especially those that are in sales, is run your business like you were the CEO of your corporation. And get your mind around that, because I can guarantee you'd be doing things a whole lot differently than you might be doing right now, Daryl.
So true. Well, make sure to like or subscribe. We've got an incredible roster of guests coming up for you throughout the fall. Thank you to everybody who is leaving reviews on the podcast. It helps spread the word and build this movement of authenticity in the sales profession. Till next time, keep being genuine, keep being authentic, keep building trust, do less, better, and most of all,
sell from the heart.